Level 1. Private First Class. Infantryman. You are 18 years old. The rifle is heavier than you expected. Not the physical weight of it, which is 3 kilograms. The weight of what it means, which arrives the first time Drill Sergeant Howell sets it in your hands at 0530 on a Tuesday morning at Fort Moore, Georgia, and tells you this is now your responsibility, your extension, your problem for every hour of every day until someone tells you otherwise. Nobody in your family has served. You signed the papers 2 months after your 18th birthday at a recruiting office in Columbus, Ohio. Not because someone told you to, because something in you was looking for a direction with real edges to it, and everything you had tried before felt soft around the edges in a way you could not name but could not ignore. The Army gave you a contract. 11 Bravo. Infantry. You took it without fully knowing what it meant. You will spend the next 4 years finding out. Basic combat training at Fort Moore is 9 weeks. Weapons qualification, land navigation, first aid, fire and movement. The days start before light and end after dark, and the interval is filled with instruction designed not to teach you skills, but to teach you how you function when you are tired and cold and someone is telling you to move faster than feels possible. That is the actual lesson. Everything else is the vehicle. Your drill sergeant is Staff Sergeant Howell. 11 years in 2 combat deployments to Iraq. The unhurried manner of a man who has seen the version of this that kills people and organized everything he teaches around the distance between you and that version. He does not yell after the first week. His corrections are specific, immediate, and delivered at a speaking volume that carries more authority than any noise. On day 12, he stops you on the range. Your groupings are 3 inches high and left. Not bad for week 2. Bad for what you are going to need it to be. He adjusts your grip, your cheek weld, your breathing. 2 inches. Still left. Your natural point of aim is pulling. Work it tonight. He walks to the next shooter. You work it that night, dry firing at a paper target in the barracks until lights out. You work it the next morning before breakfast. Your qualification score on day 18 is 38 out of 40. Howell sees it on the roster. He says nothing. You understand he does not need to. You are assigned to 2nd Battalion, 504th Parachute Infantry Regiment, 82nd Airborne Division, Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Your orders read Carter N. 2nd PLT Bravo Company. The unit deploys 7 months later. Kunar Province, Afghanistan. Elevation, rugged terrain, cold in ways Ohio cold does not prepare you for. Your platoon sergeant, Sergeant First Class Reeves, has walked this valley on 2 previous rotations. He knows where the ground changes. He moves like a man reading a sentence he has read before, already at the end while the rest of you are still on the first word. First contact is day 22. A ridgeline engagement, 200 meters, 11 minutes. Nobody in your squad is hit. You put rounds downrange in the correct direction at the correct rate without being told to redirect. Afterward, Reeves does not comment on what you did or did not do correctly. He tells the squad to police up brass, check water, be ready to move in 10. You do not feel what you expected to feel after your first firefight. You feel tired. You feel an alertness that will not fade for 6 hours. You feel the specific need to go back because there were 2 decisions you made that you are not sure were correct, and the only way to know is to be in it again. The deployment is 9 months. By month 4 you are moving differently. Not faster. More economically. The weight you carry, 72 pounds in full kit, stops being something you think about and starts being something your body simply accounts for the way it accounts for its own mass. You stop flinching at sounds that are not threats. You start noticing the sounds that precede the ones that are. The Valley teaches this. It does not announce its lessons. It produces conditions and you either adapt or you do not. By month 7, Reeves puts you on point for the first time. The point man is the first problem the terrain encounters, the first decision, the one who chooses the line. He watches you for half a patrol without a word. When you come back in he says simply, good judgment on the route change at the creek. That is the complete review. You understand it is substantial. At 18, the lesson is not about courage or fear. It is about attention. The job selects for people whose attention does not leave when conditions become unreasonable. The rest is built on that. Level 2. Staff Sergeant. 75th Ranger Regiment. You are 23 years old. 3 deployments with the 82nd. 11 months of combat in aggregate. You passed RASP at 21, Ranger Assessment and Selection Program, on your first attempt, and have spent the last 2 years at 1st Battalion 75th Ranger Regiment, Fort Stewart, Georgia. The Rangers operate differently from conventional infantry the way a precision instrument differs from a general tool. Not in the quality of the people. In the standard applied to everything: preparation, planning, rehearsal, execution, accountability, and the relentlessness with which that standard is enforced at every level without exception. You are a squad leader. 6 Rangers. Direct action missions in eastern Afghanistan, rotating every 4 months. High-value target capture or kill, network disruption, enabling operations for units whose names do not appear in your briefings. You work from ISR packages, pattern of life analysis, intelligence you receive in summary and verify through direct observation. You plan at the squad level, brief up, execute, account for everything in the debrief. Your first sergeant is Master Sergeant Dolan. 17 years in special operations. He has a quality you will not be able to name for another 5 years. The ability to walk into any room and identify the thing nobody has said yet, and to say it clearly without reducing the person who should have said it. In a debrief after a failed site exploitation, a mission that yielded nothing because the target moved 48 hours prior, Dolan sits at the table and lets every junior leader speak first. When it is your turn, the ISR gap was 18 hours before execution. We moved on stale product. Nobody flagged it. He nods once. Correct. How do we fix the process? Not how do we find who missed it. How do we fix it? You file that exchange in a part of your memory you will access many times. The work is mostly waiting. This is the part that does not survive in any account of special operations. 40 hours in a forward operating base waiting for a target package to mature. Rehearsals on a mocked-up compound in a dirt lot behind the motor pool. Intelligence updates that revise the picture, sometimes improving it, sometimes removing the thing that made the mission viable. Missions planned to a standard and then stood down at 3 hours prior for reasons not explained at your level. You do not experience this as frustration. You experience it as the job. In your second year at the regiment, you hear about the unit for the first time from someone reliable. An operator who came through RASP 2 years ahead of you, carrying a different identifier on his paperwork, says only this: if you are serious, apply. He does not elaborate. You know what he means. Everyone who is serious knows. The Rangers own the night. This is not a phrase. It is a technical description of a capability built through 10,000 rehearsals in darkness, of equipment worn until it becomes bodyweight, of communication patterns drilled until silence between men moving in the dark carries the same information density as speech. You have run 41 night operations over 3 Ranger deployments. On the 41st you move through a compound in Kandahar province in total darkness. No white light, with 5 Rangers whose positions you know without looking because you know how each of them breathes at a fast walk under load. The target is in the 3rd room. The mission is clean. Wheels up at 0340. In the debrief, the squadron intelligence officer asks about a secondary individual observed leaving the compound at H-4 minutes. Your observation report logged him, direction of travel, physical description, probable armed status. The intelligence officer marks the file. 3 weeks later, that individual becomes the primary target for a follow-on mission. You had no way of knowing. You logged what you saw anyway. Dolan sees the notation in the after-action. He finds you at the motor pool and says one sentence. That is how it works. He walks away. You finish your 3rd Ranger deployment. 14 confirmed engagements at squad level. Your soldiers are alive. Your mission record is documented. Your after-action reports are used as templates by your company intelligence section. You submit your application to OTC, Operator Training Course, 1st SFODD, Fort Liberty, North Carolina. 3 letters of recommendation, qualification scores, commander endorsement. You wait. At 23, you understand what the job can be at its best because you have watched it operate at the level above you. The Rangers are excellent. You have known for 18 months that excellent is not the ceiling. Before we go further, if you have made it this far, drop a comment right now. Which level would you have stopped at? Hit the like button. Subscribe. We upload every single day. Level 3. Delta Force Operator. You are 27 years old. The selection course does not tell you what it is selecting for. This is intentional. 19 days in the mountains of West Virginia. Land navigation alone. Rucksack whose weight increases on a schedule nobody shows you in advance. A grid coordinate. A distance. Time window. No cadre. No feedback. No indication of whether what you are doing is sufficient. You navigate. You move. You reach the point. You are given the next one. The ambiguity is the test. Not the physical load, which is significant but manageable for anyone the regiment produces. The test is whether you sustain your own direction when no external structure is providing it. Whether you function in a vacuum. Whether the absence of feedback degrades your performance or your performance exists independently of it. You do not know whether you have passed until the final day, when a cadre member finds you at a grid coordinate in a tree line at dusk and tells you to follow him. He drives without speaking. Inside a building you have not seen before, a room of men who look exactly like you, each one carrying the same accumulated mileage, none of them speaking. You receive orders to report for operator training course in 14 days. You do not celebrate. You go to a diner outside Fayetteville and eat a full meal and sleep 11 hours. OTC is 6 months. Shooting to a standard that redefines the word proficient. Close quarters battle in a shoot house where the drills are calibrated to the actual problem rather than a theoretical version of it. Explosive breaching, vehicle interdiction, combat medicine, intelligence exploitation, source operations. The instructor cadre are operators with between 8 and 20 years in the unit. They teach by doing alongside you, not by demonstrating and watching. Corrections are precise, immediate, and never personal. Your team sergeant is Chief Warrant Officer Garza. Former Ranger, 12 years in the unit. The specific quality of stillness that comes from having been in more situations than you can count where stillness was the correct response. He watches your shooting on week 3 of OTC. Your transition time, draw to first shot, is 1.4 seconds. He watches for 30 seconds. Left thumb is breaking contact on the reload. You would not notice it under stress. He walks to the next station. You practice the reload for 2 hours. Your transition time drops to 1.1. He says nothing about the improvement. You understand this is the acknowledgement. You graduate OTC. You are assigned to a troop. The work is classified at levels that make the Ranger rotations feel like public record. Locations that do not appear on your leave documentation. Taskings authorized at levels you will not see for another 4 years. You execute. You adapt. You make decisions in windows measured in seconds on information that is incomplete by design, because the target environment selects for situations where complete information is not available and never will be. 11 missions in 3 years. The number is the only form you are permitted to carry in unclassified records. What the number does not contain. The specific quality of stillness that precedes an entry on a target where the intelligence picture is correct, and you know it is correct because every element of the pattern of life you observed in the preceding 72 hours aligns with the package. The way a well-built plan feels different from a plan that only looks well-built. The difference between an operator who has executed enough to know the difference and one who has not. You have executed enough. You know the difference now. It took 8 missions to know it. The 9th mission is the one you think about, not because it went wrong, because it went exactly right in a way that required decisions you could not have made at 23. The target was mobile. The window was closing. The original plan was invalid by H-11 minutes, and you rebuilt the approach on the ground with the information available, and the team executed on the new plan without a word of adjustment from you because they read the same information and arrived at the same solution and moved. That is what the unit is. Not one decision-maker. 11. Operating from the same picture to the same conclusion without the sentence that connects them needing to be spoken. At 27, you understand that elite is not a performance standard. It is a consistency standard. Anyone can be excellent once. What the unit asks across every selection, every OTC evolution, every mission, is whether you are excellent every time, including the times when excellent costs something you did not expect to pay. Level 4. Squadron Commander. You are 32 years old. The unit is yours. Not in the way a title is yours. In the way a decision is yours, with the weight of knowing that what happens to every man in your command over the next 18 months will pass through the quality of what you do at this table, on this intelligence, before anyone moves. You command a Delta Force squadron. 51 operators. 3 troops, a headquarters element, enablers attached from the 160th SOAR, ISR platforms, and signals collection assets. You report to the commanding officer of the Combat Applications Group. You brief the National Security Council on operations requiring presidential authorization. The path from Bravo Company, 504th PIR to this room was 14 years. 3 units, 6 combat rotations, 2 wounds on a record not available to anyone without a TS/SCI clearance. 1 decision made on a rooftop in a city whose name does not leave a SCIF. The decision was correct. The review confirmed it. The weight of it did not leave with the confirmation. Your operations Sergeant Major is Sergeant Major Treadwell. 20 years in the unit. He has a habit of sitting at the back of every planning brief without speaking, then asking one question at the end that identifies the single assumption the entire plan rests on that nobody has pressure tested. You have started running every plan through his question before you brief it. This has caught 2 failures before they became something worse. Before an operation in a denied area, 12-man element, single-point insertion, no quick reaction force within feasible range, a 6-hour target window, and a contingency dependent on weather sitting at the margin, Treadwell sits through the full brief. His question: if the window closes at hour 4 instead of 6, which decision gets made by whom and on what authority? The room holds 11 seconds of silence. You answer it. You rebuild the authorization matrix on the spot. The operation executes. Closes clean. That is how decisions work at this level. Not in the objective where operators are executing. Here, in this room, before the objective, where the assumptions live unexamined until someone examines them. You are not in the field anymore. This is the adjustment nobody prepares you for. 14 years of being the person who moves, who enters, who makes the contact decision. Now you are the person who approves the plan under which someone else makes it. You know every operator in this squadron. Not their files. Them. Who processes information faster than the situation requires and needs a tasking structure that slows them productively. Who is carrying something that is beginning to affect the margin they bring to the work, and how much of that is yours to address and how much is theirs, and where the line is. The line is where the mission goes. 6 months into your command, a mission is approved over your written objection. The intelligence picture had a gap. 17 lines in the pre-mission assessment, specific, the exact coordinates of the uncertainty. The mission is approved. Your operators execute. It succeeds. The gap did not produce a casualty. You submit the post-mission report, restate the gap, recommend a change to the validation protocol. The recommendation is accepted. The protocol changes department-wide. This is the work at this level. Not the operations that succeed. The corrections that make the next one safer. Fort Liberty, late October. 0620. You are walking from the operations building to the vehicle bay. The light is flat and gray, no direction to it. On the qualification range 200 meters east, a class of new soldiers is running their first M40. You can hear the cadence from here. The pause and reset of men learning, for the first time, the spacing between trigger press and breath. Carter N. 2nd PLT Bravo Company. That was the line on your orders the morning you arrived at Fort Moore at 18 years old, with a rifle you had never held and no understanding of what the next 14 years were going to require of you. You stop for a moment. Not long. At 32, the understanding that took 14 years to build is this: the unit does not need men who are without fear. It needs men who are afraid of the right things. Afraid of a gap in the intelligence picture. Afraid of an assumption that has not been questioned. Afraid of a standard that has slipped by 3% because 3% accumulates and nobody notices until it costs something that cannot be returned. The soldiers on that range do not know what is coming. Because you were standing in exactly that place. You get in the vehicle. The brief starts in 40 minutes. The work does not pause for what you remember.